Hi there, and welcome to another video game soundtrack review. This week, I'm looking at the 2014 adventure game, The Banner Saga, a beautiful, hand-drawn adventure set in a world of Norse and Viking mythology. The Banner Saga places the player as a leader of a caravan heading across an icy Scandinavian wasteland. As if the land of ice and snow wasn't enough of a challenge, you are also caught up in an apocalypse. The gods are dead, the sun has stopped in the sky, and you are constantly having to fight your way through hordes of zombie-like metallic creatures called the Dredge. Your caravan is made up mainly of innocent civilians, but also, thankfully, of Viking warriors, and even better, the Varl, an ancient race of warrior giants with horns, who actually defeated the Dredge last time something like this happened. Sadly, however, befitting a world where everything seems to be tragic and terrible, the Varl are actually dying out because there's no way for them to breed. The incredibly written and presented story skillfully combines elements of a glorious old myth, or as the game might say, saga, and a modern nihilistic zombie story. You aren't leading heroes in a quest to save the world, you're just warriors looking to survive just one more month as the world collapses around you, leading people to a safety that you don't believe really exists. Yeah, this is pretty heavy stuff. In many respects it's like that really old game The Oregon Trail, only they've managed to find things even worse than dysentery. The Banner Saga is one of the triumphs of Kickstarter. The designers asked for $100,000 to make a mature, story-driven, turn-based strategy game steeped in Viking culture by 3 game industry veterans. And because this is 2012, the glory days of crowdfunding, they got well over $700,000, meaning they obviously had a lot more money to work with than they ever dreamed of. And you can see where that money went, particularly in the score. In many independent games, the music feels like an afterthought, created electronically because it's cheaper that way. Not here, this is a huge ensemble of real musicians. This is expensive music, and the man behind it is Austin Wintory. Now Austin is a guy I expect I'll be talking about a lot on this channel. At 32 years old, he's one of the rising stars of composition, particularly in the world of games. Momentously, in 2012 his first major score, Journey, became the first video game soundtrack to be nominated for a Grammy. Since then, he's been rapidly building a reputation for being able to score anything in any genre. From Leisure Suite Larry Reloaded to the Victorian drama of Assassin's Creed Syndicate, he's never shy to take on a musical challenge, much like his hero Jerry Goldsmith. He's also a thoroughly modern composer, with all the social media and marketing that comes with that. You should definitely check out his YouTube channel, including his own behind-the-scenes take on the Banner Saga. I've included a link in the description. One thing I admire about Austin is that he's a composer that interacts directly with the fan community. Significantly for this score, he discovered some of his soloists that way, the violinist Taylor Davis and the vocalist Maluka and Peter Hollins. All of them came to his attention for doing amazing covers of game music on YouTube. Beyond the soloists, the main ensemble you hear in the soundtrack is the Dallas Winds, which already tells you that there's something a bit different going on here. You see, the sound of video games comes mainly from film, and for decades film music has been dominated by the strings or synthesizers. Using woodwinds and brass is a bold choice, which I think really pays off. The sound is ancient and solemn, it's like the story and the landscape that it's set in. But it's also refreshingly different and distinct. This is a soundtrack that when you listen to it alongside other recent film, TV and game scores really stands out as something special. For such an objectively sad and tragic story, the music really isn't. It's heroic, but a sort of slow, mournful, slightly nostalgic heroism. This is music of the march, of the cruel environment. Its function, like the art style, is to add context and emotional weight to the story. This is particularly important in video games where the player is part of the story, not simply observing it. In a film, and frankly in most games, the score reacts to the story. A character might die and the music tells us to be sad now. Or alternatively, they might succeed in their endeavour and the music will celebrate with us. Here, most of the time at least, the music focuses on communicating the struggle and strain of the journey. It tells us the stakes, but ultimately lets the player and the story determine the emotion of each moment. We can hear this in the way some of the music transforms over the course of the game. Take the opening track We Will Not Be Forgotten, which contains a majestic theme, all horns and trumpets. This is the music of a proud, ancient warrior race, which I see very much as representative of the Varl. This is the theme in its neutral form. Later, in a track titled Strewn Across a Bridge, we hear the strain of the journey on that theme. The melody is still there in the horns, but it's surrounded by dissonance. Heavy drums are telling us that every step the Varl and our caravan takes is now very hard work. There are moments of beauty also, when, spoiler alert, the caravan arrives at an ancient Varl capital that no human has ever visited. Wintory shows us just how momentous this is. In the appropriately titled Walls No Man Has Seen, we hear the Varl theme at its most awe-inspiring, harmonised, beautiful and strong. Through changes in harmony and orchestration, Wintory is able to support the story, providing emotional depth and context to each scene. Over the course of the soundtrack, we hear him use almost every wind orchestration technique there is. My favourite example for this is in the track called Thunder Before Lightning. It starts with bubbly, rippling, aleatoric woodwinds. Later, staccato reed woodwinds add a rhythmic energy before giving way to that Varl melody from before, but now very angular and growling. And finally, right at the end, we hear these terrifying, shaking brass crescendos. The result of all this is a very challenging score that belongs as much in the concert hall as it does in a game about giants and Vikings. There's shades of a number of great composers here. For classical music fans out there, you can definitely hear moments that resemble Sibelius, Stravinsky, and even the Australian composer Peter Sculthorpe, all of whom were in the business of describing ancient harsh landscapes through music. In the liner notes, Wintory himself cites the influence of John Corigliano's Third Symphony, Circus Maximus, and if you like the soundtrack to the Banner Saga, you should definitely also check that out. The link is in the description to the video. Ultimately, I can't recommend the Banner Saga soundtrack enough. If you're any sort of gamer, you really should play this game and listen to it in its original context. And if you buy the game through Steam, it's very easy to get the soundtrack album included. But even if you're not a gamer, this is a soundtrack that is really worth listening to as an album. I've only scratched the surface in this review. I haven't even touched on the amazing vocal tracks or the solo violin theme that accompanies the father-daughter story throughout the game. This is one of the very few soundtrack albums that really encourages you to just settle down to a comfy chair and listen to it. And on that glowing endorsement, that's it. I hope you've liked this review, and I really hope you check out the game and its soundtrack. If you've already played it, maybe go down to the comments and tell me what you thought. And if you like this video, please throw me a cheeky like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more soundtrack related content in the future. But for now, goodbye.